In this episode, Focus gets a clay bar and a polish. We wrestle with some AC pipes. Manifold and cat come off. In the dark. Front subframing goodies are back from the powder coaters and looking amazing. And I find a small rust hole. Okay, let's sort the paintwork out before I start putting the cover over this car ready for the winter. So I've got an Auto Glim Bodywork shampoo conditioner, pure definition clay bar and an Auto Glim super resin polish. Okay, this is hot water from the hose. I'm one of those weird people that has a hot outside tap on my house. So yeah, just give this a rinse with hot water, loosen all the gritty bits. Okay. Auto Glim and a wash mitt. Yeah, I'm not cool enough to be a detailer, so yeah, we only do what we can do. Rinse the mitt. And just try not to scratch it. Oh, God. Yeah, we're going to sort this one out as well. Probably I'm going to change the whole mirror, I think, so yeah, I need to find a mirror in the same colour. Or we'll get it sprayed when we get the wing sprayed. Who knows? Who can tell what the future holds? I did just do this the other day when I bought the car cover. I gave it a very quick wash just to test the cover, so it is mostly clean at the moment. There's no harm in doing it again though. I'll just give it a very quick wipe down. So when I do this with a cloth, it actually feels gritty. I mean, this isn't the right cloth, this is just a cheapy microfiber, but I can actually feel the grit on this, so it definitely does need to be clay barred. Okay, get the clay bar, we just tear off a little chunk, then just warm that up. And get the detailing spray, or in this case we're going to call it clay bar spray because we are clay barring. And spray this on nice and liberally. Oop, got a decent jet there. Ah, that's more like it, there we go. Lots of spray, work in a small area, and then with no pressure, I'm just going to take this very lightly. Just go side to side or up and down. Run it over the section that I'm working on, and I can feel the grit now being taken into the clay. So yeah, not too much pressure. Okay, wipe it off. It's not really that hot today, so I just went over the whole bonnet, but probably meant to do like a smaller section, but not today. And yeah, that feels really smooth already actually. Really works well. Can't feel any grit now. That was only a quick go and it looks amazing. It's really good. There's no gritty noise on that at all. It's really smooth and yeah, really happy with that. So I'm going to push on and go over the whole car, and then we're going to get a coat of wax on. But considering that's got no wax, no nothing on it, it's yeah, it really is lovely. I mean, there's the odd imperfection where a stone has chipped it, but yeah, that has come out really well. I'd recommend doing that. Okay, have a listen to this. So this side is done. This side isn't. Adios, clay bar. Perfect. Okay, that's the whole car clay bar. It's come out really well. Nice smooth panels now. It's taken all that grittiness off the top of it. Really, really nice finish. Done a very good job. So what I'm going to do now is go through this and put on the Auto Glim Super Resin Polish. So I've got some here, and it's basically best stuff I've ever used. It goes on really well. You can put it on either one panel or the whole car. Wipes off really easily and gives a really nice finish. Okay, Super Resin Polish. Going to go over the whole bonnet. So the reason that I didn't go for the Auto Glim clay bar kit was it was 30 quid and it had this polish in, which I didn't need because I already had this one. Then I had a look online, and the other brand did one that was only 8 quid, and it had the detailer and the clay bar. It was just better value, and that's the one I went for. I've never used pure definition stuff before, but I highly recommend it. Yeah, this Auto Glim stuff, it smells really nice as well. It reminds me of you know, college days, cleaning your motor and taking it around town. Happy days. Okay, I'm just going to do the whole car. I'm going to move on to the roof now. Okay, do the roof. That squeaking is the car, not my hip. Although at the age of 21, you never quite know. Oh, God almighty, John. Like, be cool with the clutch, man. Okay, that's all the panels done with the polish. It's gone on really well, it's dried okay. I'm just going to go around the whole car now and wipe it off. So this comes off really easily. It's lovely stuff, really light. And you see the finish on that there, it's really, really nice finish. Polish the top. There it is, lovely finish, all ready for the winter. I know that I can put the car cover on it now, and I've done all I can to minimise any scratches. Okay, the tool has turned up to get the air conditioning pipes off, so I had a recommendation for these. It'll be a little bit easier than trying to use the hose clips, so I'm going to take whichever one fits, and then we're going to reach behind here, undo the pipes, and then I can take all of these pipes out down here, take those out and take the dryer out as well, then we can change all that lot. Okay, let's try this one. So yeah, that just hooks over the pipe, and then we can just push that in there, and that should unclip it. Hopefully with less of a struggle. Let's see. Okay, that's around the pipe. There's just no access to... Oh, hold on. I think it might be the next size down, actually. All right, let's try the second one from the largest. Right, this is a real bastard to do. If you're thinking of doing this, my advice would be don't. You just can't grip the connector. There's just no space. And you've got the vacuum pipes here all getting knocked around, and yeah, that'll be fun, checking all those. That is so difficult. I've got to get these off because those pipes are corroded, so they have to come off. Can't leave them on. But I know it's only just, if I can just get them off, because when I put them back on, they just slot on. There's no pissing around, I think. Oh, sugar. 2 lumps of sugar. What was that? Ah, there we go. Bits of car sprinkled liberally all over the driveway. Right, where was I? Ah, yes. Man versus old Ford. This is such a pain, but I really want my air conditioning working, because we're going to do some miles in this car when it's done. Going to do as many miles as possible. Right, let's try the other pipe, see if we get any more luck. I do think the right hand side pipe is going to have to come off first, because that's sort of blocking the left hand side, the driver's side pipe. But it's resisting like a bastard. It just does not want to come off. But it's gonna. I know what it is. It's that bloody spring inside is it's just been in there for a long time, and the tool won't quite free it off. One of them is off. Oh my God. Thank you, car Jesus. Yes, right. God almighty, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, so that's what we got. One of those, and then the tool we need is the second to the largest one on here. So yeah, we just do the same on the other side now. Yeah, we've got better access now because this one is disconnected, and now I know that it can come off. It sort of gives you more confidence to, you know, take the other one off, really. Yeah, it's certainly a bit more room now. And I know that that attachment is the right size now, so there's no doubt. So I'll just press on until this comes off. All the old electrics down here. I don't like doing this kind of job near to so many old electrics, because the last thing 20-year-old connectors like is people wiggling them. Come on. Check it out. When you take off the rear gearbox mount, that's all you got. So the rear gearbox mount is pretty critical. Oh, Jesus. Honestly, what a job. Gonna have a lot of editing to do with this. Honestly, it's been rolling for about an hour. Come on, focus. They are so easy to do, but so difficult. All at the same time. I can see why they get left. But honestly, it's right there. I can just feel the gap where the connector needs to go into, and the spring is just not moving. That's all it is. And all of a sudden it will just go. Do you hear that, focus? All of a sudden it will just go. No. What a bastard. I want this off. That's really on there. How the fridge is that on there so tight? It's absolutely welded on there, that is. That bloody spring is just not moving. Oh, God. Okay, it's getting dark, I'm running out of battery, I might have to pick this up again tomorrow. It's literally one is stuck and that is it. I know it's the right size connector, I know it will come off. I've sort of got access to it now because the other pipe's out, but it just won't go in there, and I just can't grip it enough to actually get the force on that to move the spring. I think the spring is just resisting. What a bastard! Okay, we're going to do this tomorrow. Okay, so it's the next day, and I did actually get this off. So yeah, what happened? Okay, what happened is you actually need to use the third one down here. So I tried this one. I was using this one yesterday. You need the third one down, and I thought it was too small to actually go on there, but what I did, I tried it on this one, and the one that I had off, and I noticed that it was a really nice fit on the spring. You see that spring in there? That's what you had to slot in between. And I tried it on the other one, and after a little bit of movement, it did come off. And all it was that I was using, yeah, one of these that was still slightly too big. So there you go, guys. You know, I hope it helps someone out, and I'll waste my afternoon, guys. So you're gonna have to waste yours. So all I'm going to do now is pull these two pipes out, and these should actually just come out from here. So I'm going to put you back on the tripod and we'll finally get these removed. Yeah, if I struggle with something like this, I'm going to leave it in because it's real life, and you know, I'm not a bullshitter, and basically yeah, you're gonna see it if I have a problem with something, because it would have been very handy to have known that before I started on this. So yeah, hopefully it will help someone out. Here we go, off they come. Easy as that. Yeah. Okay, pipe number one is free. And the legendary pipe number two is also now free. Yay! Okay, here we go. We've got most of the air conditioning system off. So these are the bits I was struggling with. So these bits go straight through the bulkhead behind the dash. And then, yeah, we've got the two pipes come down here. We've got some sort of connector here, which was, yeah, that's in the engine bay. This is the reason that I would like to have changed these, because there is a lot of corrosion there. And I mean, they are probably still holding, but I do want to take them off. And then we go through here to the dryer. And then, yeah, this bit here goes to the compressor. We're going to be changing the compressor, and yeah, we have other bits and bobs there. So basically what I'm looking for is the whole system there, and to be fair, I can't actually see them, so I'm going to have to track them down, maybe have to go to Ford, but yeah, I did sort of consider with this, as I'm going so far rebuilding this car, that I will actually change that whole system. Okay, it's time to take off the manifold. I want to do this for a couple of reasons. First one, I need to get to the oil separator behind here, so that needs to come off. You can only really do that with the manifold off. And secondly, I want to change the catalytic converter. So what I need to do is undo the nuts and bolts on the flexi section that connected to the cat, and then that whole lot will be free. And obviously make sure that the bracket is undone too. And then I'm going to take off the manifold on the cat as one unit, and then when it's off, I'll put it on the table, I'll get the Dremel, and I will separate them there. I'll obviously don't want to damage the manifold there. So yeah, that's the plan with that. Well, goodbye, Mr. Sun. Okay, here it is. Yeah, so the first evening episode. So yeah, gonna probably see a few more of these as we come into the winter. So I hope it all comes out all right. So we've got these LEDs on here, and then the other ones at the back for a little bit of colour there. So yeah, I'm lucky. I'm in the building business, and I've got a few of these sight lights knocking around. So most people call them sight lights. I call them movie lights because I think that sounds cooler. So let's crack on with this and see what happens. So yeah, as I just mentioned, I'm going to be taking off the manifold and taking off the cat as well, leaving it all connected because I don't want to be drilling through this at night. I'll put this on the bench and then sort of take that off there because I don't want to damage the manifold. So first thing I'm going to do is crawl under here and take off the flexi section and the catalytic converter bracket. Okay, so let's undo the flexi section to cat there, so 15mm spanner. And I've already changed these so they're nice and loose, and I did a bit of copper grease as well because I had a feeling that I'd be the one to take them off. And what I'm going to do as well is just undo the ones at the back here, so I'll take these out, these nuts and bolts, and then I'll actually take off this section. Just get the spanner on the nut behind that to stop it from spinning. Okay, take out the last bolt. And then take out the flexi section. Undo the cat bracket, so there is a clamp that goes around the cat here, and then it goes onto this bracket here, which in turn connects to this, which is bolted onto the block. So basically I want to undo this bolt here and the bolt behind it. These are apparently really hard to get hold of, so I'm going to try and take this one off and basically recondition it, and yeah, get that all sorted out before it goes back on. Okay, that's not too bad. That's a 10mm. That's what we got. And just sort of reach over as best you can and do the same from the other side. Okay, so that's the other side done. So I went for the next size up ratchet for this just to get a better angle on this. That's the cat bracket, bolts out. Yeah, so now the cat will come out with the manifold attached to it with its little bracket on there, but this piece will stay on so I can recondition all that. I'm going to take out the oxygen sensors now. The special sockets. Put it over the sensor, so it's got a little cut in the side there, just goes down there, and it's on the top. So yeah, that is so much easier than last time I did this. Put the ratchet on the top and undo the sensor. Take the ratchet out, probably take that off as well actually. Yeah, they never come out this easily, it's only because I have just changed these and I've not driven the car anywhere. Then a different socket for the back one. Same as before, just thread it through the wire, take it down onto the sensor. Put the ratchet in the top and then undo it. There we go, that's loose. Undo the top as well to make sure this doesn't get too twisted. This one is loose enough. Okay, coil that up there. They don't like to be bumped around, these things, so yeah, I'll just try and hang that up there out of the way. Okay, what we've got here is a ST170 specific over 20-year-old exhaust manifold that looks like it hasn't been off, so I'm going to be as gentle as I possibly can with this and just see if I can actually undo some of these bolts here and just take it really easy and see what happens. I really don't want to be breaking this. Okay, 10mm socket. I'm going to start with this one and then sort of zigzag across there. I don't think there is any special way to undo this, but you know, you never know. So let's get this one out. Be as delicate as possible with them. That comes undone. That's a good sign. It wasn't too tight actually either. So I'll just move across to one of these. Yeah, these aren't too tight at all actually. Yeah, so these are different down here. Got something different on there and down there. So I'll just undo the ones that this 10mm will do. Okay. Yeah, they're coming out fine. You never know with things like this. Okay, I think that was the last of the 10mm. So let's just undo the other ones now as well. Okay, this end one down here seems to be a sort of bolt with a nut around it, 13mm. I don't know whether this has actually been off. It's not very tight, so I don't know whether it's somebody's had this off and then has bodged it back on, or I don't know whether it's a standard thing. Really don't know, but it's coming undone okay, so yeah, I'm happy that one will come out okay. And then there's one more here as well, right on the end. So that's a 13.2, just undo this one with a deep socket. Again, I'm not sure whether this is standard or it's something else, but yeah, it comes undone okay. Right, so now I know that they all come undone, I'm just going to take them all out now. That's the end one. What do you think? Okay, so now we've only got one bolt in there and then the manifold will drop down. So let's get this one out. Just support the manifold. It should still be slightly hooked on the back with the cat bracket, so we'll see what happens. Okay. I just thought, is that going to make it over the dipstick? It's probably not actually. Let's leave that last bolt in for now. Loosely and take the dipstick off. Okay, so the dipstick, just one screw at the top, then it just pulls out. So let's support the manifold and get the last 10mm out now. Just need to get under that and just unhook whatever the cat is caught on. So it is actually slightly caught on the other half of its bracket, so probably the easier way would have been to take off the entire bracket, but it looked a bit corroded. I reckon we could still get it off this way though. There we go. There it is. Lovely. Right, so first things first, if you're going to do this, I would probably take off more of that cat bracket. My one, you know, the same as the all are, is very old. I think wiggling it, it's basically broken off the end. So what we have here is this bit needs to be on there. That's the bit that I took the bolts out from. Yeah, being rough with it has broken it. I do know these are very hard to find. So yeah, the hunt is going to start now, ready for when I get the new one, or I'm going to make another one there. So yeah, that is a bit of a pain, but realistically it shouldn't have broken that easy anyway, so it probably would be time to change that. So yeah, that's off. So next time I'll probably actually undo the whole lot. And this is what we got, ST170 with its exhaust manifold removed. So I'm going to unbolt this. Looks like a couple of bolts down there, or 2 or 3 bolts. Going to get this off and either refurbish it or change that. And then yeah, we can see inside the sort of workings of it there. So yeah, it all looks you know, as I would expect it to look. So yeah, I'm going to sort of have a look at these. I mean, all of these look okay. So these are, all the threads are fine on these, and you know, they seem to be absolutely fine with no damage at all. And yeah, I just wonder what you guys think with regard to these here. So we obviously have sort of different bolts here. So these you know, doesn't look the same as the others, looks a bit different. And then we've got you know, sort of standard 10mm there. So yeah, I wonder if you guys could let me know in the comments your thoughts on it. And you know, is that standard? Has that been where somebody's got around a problem? They're all, you know, they weren't done up massively tight. And yeah, just wondering what your thoughts are on that. All right, let's take off that oil separator. Actually, before I do that, the cat bracket has just caught my attention, so it looks like that wasn't broken just now, because the break in that is actually very old. It has sort of re-corroded over there, so it looks like with this car it's been running with a broken cat bracket for a long time. And yeah, I never noticed it, so yeah, we do need to get another one of those. So I'm putting the shout out, if anybody if anybody knows where to get these from. They do appear to be nearly impossible to find. If I can't find one, I'm going to have to actually fabricate one, or have one fabricated and get rid of that way, because yeah, it obviously was running with a broken bracket. And yeah, so I never noticed it, but apparently I've never seen it, but apparently what it can do is break the cat. If you sort of run without these, it can break the top of the cat. So when I get a new cat, I need to make sure that that bracket is on there and working properly. Okay, as far as I can see at the moment, it's got 3 8mm bolts there. And what I've done as well, I put just a bit of tissue over the oil dipstick hole there. I don't want to get anything in there. I am going to be obviously completely changing the oil, and I will be having this sump off just to redo that gasket on there as well, just while I've got good access while the cat's off. So yeah, let's get these out. Yeah, so these seem to be the shorter bolts, and this is the longer one that has to go through the separator. Put the bolts back in for safekeeping. So that's it, oil separator off, and we can see right into the bottom of the engine there. Check it out. So we'll put something over that to make sure nothing dodgy gets in there. And down here we have the oil separator. So yeah, the back is in very good condition. And yeah, that just sticks in there. And then the front has obviously been scorched by the manifold heat, so I don't know whether I can recondition that or whether I'll get a new one. I did have a great tip the other day from somebody that recommended one for sale, and I hadn't got this off yet, so yeah, I may have to try and find another one there, but yeah, I would like to replace that if possible. Okay, that's enough for tonight. Tidy up time now and a glass of refreshment. So yeah, let's get that on the go, and then I will see you guys back in the daylight, depending on how the edit goes. Okay, let's get these in the van, take them down to the powder coaters. So we've got the little shield there that goes over the electrics in the front passenger wheel arch, just behind the liner. We've got the front subframe, front anti-roll bar and the radiator bracket. Okay, just got the front subframe and the other bits back with the powder coaters, so let's open them up, see what we got. So this has been blasted and then zinc treated and powder coated. Oh yeah, it looks great. Oh yeah, great job. Yeah, he's done a perfect job on that. That is absolutely amazing. Considering how rough it looked. Yeah, lovely. Let's turn it over. Yes, basically like new, isn't it? It's yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's got into every bit. It's all been covered. Yeah, lovely. Let's get the other bits opened. Okay, this is the radiator bracket. Oh, look at that. Be ashamed to put it on the car. I might just hang this on my wall, actually. Incredible, yeah, all the little numbers have come up and everything. It's yeah, that is a fantastic job. That is really good. It's cleaned up really well. The finish is absolutely immaculate. Brilliant finish there. Okay, and this is the cover for the electric terminals underneath the passenger wheel arch there. And this was in very bad condition, but yeah, that looks incredible. Yeah, really, really nice. Really thick finish on there. Okay, here it is, the bit with the rust. So I was looking for problems in this car, and yeah, the problems came and found me. So there was actually no sign this was here at all, and all I was doing, I was picking away at the grit guard here and just making sure, and yeah, so absolutely no sign whatsoever, and then the screwdriver went through that, so I picked it out, and that's what we got there. So what I'm going to do with this is, my welding isn't up to repair on this, so we're going to cut this out with the Dremel. This one down here, got a little flexible sort of hose, I suppose, for that, so we can cut it out, and then I'm going to take this car when it's time to have it MOT'd, present it to the MOT station, and obviously get the welding done by the MOT guy. And that's the way we're going to do this. So yeah, there is a time-lapse video actually of when I first discovered this. Let me see if I can add that in. The dog's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? Okay, the first thing I'm going to do here is scrape away the rest of this gravel guard just to make sure that there's no other underlying issues before I start chopping big pieces out of this car. Okay, let's scrape the last of this coating off. Well, it may well be solid under here, but I do need to check. because I thought that bit was solid, and yeah, look how that turned out. Yeah, we're just going to tap it with a hammer just to make life a bit easier. That looks alright, it might just be on the back, but you never know. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the rest of the seal is absolutely fine. I've given it a good tap over with the chisel and the screwdriver, and there is no problems with that bit at all. So we are just dealing with an isolated section at the back here. So what I'm going to do with the Dremel, I'm going to cut this out back to clean. So cut a big square out, cut anything that's rusty out, and then I'm going to also, there's a weak bit here, I'm going to cut this one out as well. So I'm going to do it as delicately as possible, so that when I do take it for the MOT, it is literally a case of, yeah, just you know, weld over the holes. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out with the Dremel. I found this one in Screwfix for about 70 quid, came with a pack of bits as well. So yeah, a little bit more delicate than the Makita grinder, so we'll see how it goes with this one. Oh, it does snap around though, so be careful. Okay, so that's the first rough cut done there. I appreciate it's slightly difficult to see from the angle of the tripod, so I'll just give you the tour here. So yeah, just little by little, just taking off a little bit and just sort of seeing how sound it is. So this is going to be tidied up. I'm going to take off a bit more down the back there and just sort of you know, take it slowly and see what happens. I need to get the bit of fur. Actually, there's two layers there, so the first layer needs to come off back to solid metal, and then I'm going to take out this section here. So just you know, sort of make a little cut around that, and then probably take off this bit at the bottom here. Just you know, try and make it as tidy as possible. Right, just check the inside of the car isn't on fire. If you see my welding video, you'll know exactly what I mean. No, we're good. Yes, I've just cut around the weak spot there, and I've also tried to just sort of score over where the metal overlaps there. So what I'm hoping is I'll be able to sort of pull this out, and then I need to get this first strip off as well there. So yeah, let's give that a go. Okay, so see if that wants to come out. Yes, that is pretty corroded. Yeah, what I'm going to do is run the Dremel along there and then pick out this just probably with the chisel and the hammer. Or actually, do I need to? What I might just do actually is yeah, probably get the hammer and chisel in there, take that off without having to saw that separate piece off. Yeah, it just comes off. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So that came off perfectly there. So all I did with that is just put the screwdriver, or put the chisel in between this and just hammered it, and it basically separated. So now there's a nice section out there that the MOT guy can weld over there. So inside is actually okay. That is mainly surface. That's not, you know, nothing's going to go through that. That is fairly solid. So I am going to clean that up and then put the rust killer on that. But I'm not going to go too crazy with cleaning up everywhere that he needs to weld, because the car will be sitting out here over the winter, and obviously, you know, it's not ready to be welded yet. So before it goes in, I will sort of clean up all the edge so it can get a good weld there. And then what I'm going to do now is do what I just did to this bit here. So take this piece out, all down that seam there, and then cut out a little bit more at the back there. Then we can just work on getting these edges a lot more smoother and checking inside. But as far as I can tell, a lot of that is just on the side it's surfaced. There is a chunk here missing. Actually, what's that? Something else has fallen down there. Yeah, so this bit I need to just basically find out where that goes. It may have been connected, it may not have been. So yeah, just gone around the edge again. Got my money's worth out of that. Yeah, see the base of that is just peeling away there. Take this bit out as well. Okay, got a bit more out. This is mostly okay. There is a slight little hole in there, so what I'll do is when I have this done, I'll clean it up. I'll get a little patch or something done with that, or you know, take the MOT tester's advice there. And I think what I'm going to do with this is a little bit weak as well. I obviously don't want to go too crazy, but I am actually going to, you know, chop that little bit out there too, just to, you know, tidy up this bit as well. I might as well while I'm doing it. And this bit has already had a previous repair when I was running the car. I did have that repaired previously there. So yeah, let's change that Dremel disc and just cut this last bit out. Then we can have a good look at this bit inside here, which is a little bit corroded. That's no bloody good, is it, Dremel? Not impressed. Yeah, so I'll get another pack of discs for that, but yeah, I'm just going to take out that last section there and then have a bit of a clean up and just check underneath it. And this bit, it's a little bit rough, but I will run down that again, get a nice neat line down there. And then the plan is to leave everything pretty much as it is over the winter, and then before it goes in for the MOT, it will be properly cleaned up, and then yeah, we'll provide a decent surface for the MOT tester to weld that. So yeah, I'm going to get some more discs and carry on with that. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there for today. So I need to get some more Dremel discs. So I need to basically go up to the retail park and mess around up there trying to find those. So yeah, all I'm going to do really is just tidy up the last of that rust hole. All looks okay. It's pretty much as I expected. So a little bit rusty inside, but what I'm going to do is basically just tidy up the last little bit I was working on and then leave it until next year when we're ready to get the MOT. When it's MOT time, I'll basically treat the rust and, you know, make sure everything's prepped up ready for the welding. Going to do the same on the other side, peel off that protective layer and just have a look. And you know, if there is any similar issues, then I'll do the same thing I'm doing on this side. Obviously, if it's horrific, I'll get the camera out and we'll have a look at it. But yeah, I'm gonna, you know, trying to find the steering rack now. So I'm probably gonna have my steering rack rebuilt. So I can sort of keep the original part on there, and then I can put that back on the front subframe, get the front subframe back on. So I'm just talking to a couple of suppliers at the moment, trying to sort out a price for it. So as soon as that's done, we'll get that back on film and yeah, start to get a few more bits back on this car. So there we go, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Welcome back. We've made it through the winter. I'm here, you guys are here, so that means it's time to get working on this ST170 again. So in the previous episodes, I forget how many we've done now, we've done some serious work to it, we've done all the back and we've done a lot of other stuff as well. Now it's time to get working on the internals of this engine. So this is quite an in-depth one. Hope you enjoy it. This is what's coming up. Right, you let's get you back on. Time to recondition the oil separator. So these do look quite bad because it gets scorched by the manifold, but this I can wire wheel off, and then we're going to use some high temperature paint that basically goes directly onto metal, and that should make that look a bit better. This little gasket on here needs to be changed because that does get affected by the heat, so that will be done as well. And then we've got the gasket on the back too that will be changed. Also, because of the job these do, they do kind of get full of oil or sludge or whatever. I can hear quite a bit in here. So what I'm going to do is run some white spirit through it and keep pouring it out until it runs clear. Yeah, see that's baked in there, that does need changing, so we'll take this out. Put some white spirit in. So I'm just going to keep rinsing this through until it comes out a bit clearer, and then I'll leave it to evaporate somewhere. That's what came out. This is what we're getting at now. Wrap the end up with tape. Clean it up with a wire wheel. So I can see the proper Ford marking coming back there. Okay, there we go. Clean it up as best you can. Hasn't got to be perfect, so all this pitting, we won't be able to get rid of that, but it is smoothed off as much as we can there, and we can see the part numbers and the make there as well. So it's quite important with these, they don't have any holes in whatsoever, because if you've got a hole, you'll have like a vacuum leak and then you get misfire. So had a good look around it, all the seams are absolutely fine, no holes, no leaks. So what I'm going to do now is give it another clean with brake cleaner, and then we're going to put some high temperature paint on it. Three coats of high temperature paint, 5 minutes apart. There's 3 coats on there now. I'm just going to let this dry off for half an hour, then I'm going to put it in the oven at 200 degrees for an hour to let the paint harden. All done, fresh out the oven. It's been in there for an hour and we've had a really good result with that. Next job on this is just to get the little gasket around the top there, which is coming down in the post, should be here in the next couple of days, and then we'll get this back on the car. Okay, let's take the oil cooler off and check it over. So we've got the oil filter in here, and then we've got the 2 pipes here for the water. The bottom pipe from the oil cooler goes into the top pipe of the heater matrix, just so we know where we are there. So let's take off the oil filter and disconnect the pipes and then remove this piece. So I'm having a look at this and it doesn't seem there's going to be anything really to gain by taking it off. So I had a look for the gasket because we've got the cooler here and then behind it there's a rubber gasket that mounts it onto the block, and basically I can't seem to find one of those. The only one I can find is for a Mark 1 RS and they're nearly 30 quid, and I'm still not sure whether it'll be the right size. So I think the RS uses a very similar cooler style to this. So I'm just wondering really whether to actually do this. My sort of idea at the moment is to basically leave it on, just clean it up and leave it where it is, because although there is oil spattered around everywhere, it's not actually coming from the gasket at the back, so I'm fairly sure that is okay. And what I don't want to do is take all this off and not be able to get another cooler, and also not be able to get a gasket as well. So best policy at the moment, I think, is going to be not to disturb it, put the filter back on, and basically wait till we rebuild the whole engine until we start to mess with this. But at the moment I'm going to leave the oil filter off because it gives me great access up there to start undoing bits of the alternator. So let's move on and get the alternator removed. Okay, alternator, not particularly complicated to get this out, but very fiddly. So we need to undo some of the brackets here, move this thing out the way here, and then we basically undo it, undo the wires from the back, and we want to pull it up. Pulley first, it should come out of that hole there. So yeah, let's get started. So undo these two nuts from the canister purge valve and move it out of the way. Disconnect the plug and just put the two screws back in so we don't lose them. So now we've got to disconnect the multi-plug. We need to undo this bolt here, take this bracket off, and then take out this earth and also bend this bracket down just so we can get the alternator past that. Okay, I'm going to try not to bend that down first, and then if I can't get the alternator out, I'm going to bend that down. But it looks like it hasn't been done before, so maybe that's the original alternator. Probably is, I don't know. Okay, and on the side of the alternator we got the red wire coming into it, and it has this plastic cap on it, so we just pull that off and then we'll undo that nut there, and that will remove the wire. And then we've got to take out this multi-plug at the top. So be careful with these. I broke off a little piece of the other connector in there, so that little white bit in there, I can get that out. This is okay because this alternator is going to be changed, so I'll get a new piece anyway. But if you are reusing your alternator, just make sure that this is firmly pressed in before you start to pry that off. Undo the mounting bolt nearest to the engine. Pull the bolt right out. Okay, and then the second bolt is down the back here. So with this bolt you won't be able to get it all the way out, but you just need to get it out enough so that it touches the inner wing, and that will be enough to get the alternator out of the bracket. Okay, just pull that out as far as it will go. Mine actually just fell out because the engine's loose, but if the engine is stable you probably won't be able to get that last one out. Then very delicately wiggle the alternator free. So this is a 20-year-old car with 130,000 miles, so I am going to use the crowbar very delicately just to move it from its bracket there. So I need to make sure that's resting on the engine mount, just very delicately. Don't damage the plastic, don't use any real force, but just try and sort of move it from its mount there. Okay, this is the fiddly bit. We have to get this out pulley facing up through this gap here, so it might be slightly easier with this because the engine is actually loose, but we'll see what happens. It's really tight access. So yeah, it is hitting on that earth mount there, so I may need to bend that. Yeah, I'm going to bend the earth mount. It's going to be fun trying to bend that back. Okay, I'm going to unplug this connector as well. Do this one as well. Okay. It's like Ford's idea of a joke, I reckon. There'll be some old boy that used to work for Ford retired somewhere just laughing to himself watching this. God. You cannot be serious. They even say in the book, oh yeah, be careful when you put the new one in because you don't want to break any components on the alternator. Now, how the bloody hell am I meant to do that? Oh God, there we go. There we go. What a lot of titting around. Okay, there we go, one ST170 alternator, smart alternator I believe. I reckon it's the original one, might not be, but I reckon it is. Looks to be very old in there, looks like it's got 130,000 miles with 20 years on it. So yeah, that's the code on the back if anybody's looking for one, and this one is Motorcraft. Again, I'm not sure whether it's the original, probably is, but either way I'm going to have this one reconditioned or I'm going to replace it. Right, I've changed my mind. I've decided to take the oil cooler off after all and check it. So it makes sense to do this while the car is this far taken apart, because it may be a bit of a pain to do when it's all back together again. So the first thing I'll do, just pop the filter back on and then we'll clean around it and just make sure that no dirt's going to get into it when we take it off. Undo the coolant hoses. Whoop, mind the coolant. Yeah, I forgot about that. Right, get the rag. Okay, there we go. So that seems to be a piece of the engine that doesn't drain. Right, okay, same with the other pipe. Take the filter back off. And then with a 27mm deep socket, undo the middle nuts. And take off the cooler. Oh, again. There's no easy way to do this without getting covered in antifreeze. So that's what we got there. And this is the gasket on the back that I wanted to check, so I'm just making sure that's okay. I have got one coming down for Focus RS, Mark 1 RS. Apparently they are either very similar or the same, so if it's the same, I'll change this one. Obviously, if it doesn't fit, this gasket looks in reasonable condition, so I'll leave it where it is. So this is what we got if anybody's looking for them. The little pickup here, this is the code on the side there. This all looks in nice condition. And then we've got the actual cooler itself. Just turn that over there. Have a look at the back of that. So that's the surface that goes onto the block. This is where the little gasket sits in there. Then we've got the make of it there. I reckon this is probably an original one, made in USA. And then the code on the side here. I think the one for the RS has a different code. Let me see here, these are a little bit corroded. But the inside actually looks all right. I didn't have any problems with this at all, so what I'm going to do is clean it up cosmetically, clean the ends of these up, and see what that gasket is like when it turns up. If the gasket fits, I'll change it. If it doesn't fit, the one there actually looks okay and we will reuse it. Flush the cooler through just to make sure it's clean. Looks good. I'm just going to flush out the heater matrix too while everything's disconnected. So I'm going to put a hose on here and then that will flush through the heater matrix inside and that will all come out of the hose underneath there. Flush it through, so we need to catch the first lot of antifreeze that comes out because the heater matrix will still have some in, and then we just let the clean water run through it. Let's give the chassis leg a go with engine degreaser. That looks better, it just tidies it up a little bit. The new alternator's turned up, let's see what we got. So here it is, Motorcraft alternator. So this one has been reconditioned. I think it's somebody's old stock they've had somewhere, and I managed to find this for £130 plus £5 postage. So it's identical to the other one. And I had a quick look online, and from what it seems, Motorcraft is a supplier that sort of supplies bits for older Fords, and I think they are Ford approved or done by Ford, or they're certainly the most kind of genuine parts you can get, so I believe from what I could see. And I just saw this one and I thought, yeah, okay, we'll go for the same one. If I just show you the box here, the details on it. So that's the label there, it's a genuine Motorcraft jobby, Ford marked, so yeah, I presume they do approve these alternators. That's to tell me that it's been, or to tell me to give back the core, I think, if they want to recondition that. I don't think this guy wants anything back on this because it's old stock. And then this is the label there. So we'll get this alternator on and hopefully it'll be running absolutely lovely. Right, you let's get you back on. Okay, let's turn it around, try it the other way. I'm going to try it with the connector facing towards the suspension strut. Okay, that's it. Right, so the way to do that is to have the sticky out terminal facing this way, and it seems to go through it a lot better there. Before we sit that back in its cradle, we're just going to put the furthest bolt away back in, because when it's back in its position you won't be able to get this bolt in because it will hit the inner wing. So just rest that in there, and then we just turn the alternator around and put it in its cradle. Okay, the alternator's sat back on its mounting points there, and I've got the bolts loosely in there. I'm just going to sort of finalise that last bolt there, but I found this to be extremely awkward. It's taken me about an hour to do this, and I don't know whether it's either the way I'm doing it or the fit of the alternator or whatever, or just a technique to do it, but I found this extremely difficult. The problem is it's such a tight fit over its two mounting points. What I tried first is I tried to put this back bolt in fully, because it sort of sits in a cradle and you haven't got to take it out. I tried to put it over that, then the front wouldn't go in. Then I tried the front, the back wasn't lined up. And I don't actually know how I managed to do that. You just have to keep trying, and what will happen is you'll basically get it on and you'll think, oh, it's nearly there, and then you literally can't go any further. Then you have to get the crowbar and just very delicately take it off again and start again. And you'll have to keep doing that, and eventually it will go on. And what I did try actually is very carefully, I put a little bit of GT85 spray on here just to help it go onto the brackets there. Obviously be careful not to get it in the alternator. I'll just show you underneath as well. This is what we've got from underneath. So this is the bracket, and this is like a hollow U shape there. So I put the bolt all the way in through both the alternator points there, and then I was trying to drop it down on top of that, and then I had problems that the front wouldn't go in. So it is very fiddly. Just keep at it, and eventually it will go in. There may be an easier way that I've overlooked, but as I said, I found this really difficult. Torque the bolts to 45 Newton meters. And then we need to reconnect everything that we took off to get the old alternator out. So we need to bolt this back on, do the brackets again, bend this earth strap back, plug in the two connectors. So we've got the big red wire at the back and we've got the multi-plug there, just basically redo everything. All the bits and pieces reconnected, and that's that delightful job done. Got all the new goodies have turned up for the oil separator here. So we have the oil separator regulating valve, we've got the gasket for the back, the grommet for the top here, and then the pipe that goes out of that with the regulator attached to it connected to the car. This has had a coat of very high temperature lacquer off camera, and it's been in the oven for an hour, and it's got a really nice solid surface on there now, so ready to be built up, and we can put it back on the car. Let's get it back on the car. So we've got a lovely clean block. Just check this surface is clean, and also check this one's clean too. Put the gasket on the back. This only lines up the holes one way, so you get it on the right way. Put the longer top bolt back in its position, and that will go through the gasket at the back. And then just fit this back into position. Just do the bolts up finger tight, and the shorter bolts at the bottom. These are 8mm bolts. I can't find any torque spec on these. Don't do them up too tight, don't leave them too loose, you know the score. Let's do each one little by little. There we go, not too tight. And then reconnect the pipe at the top. And that's our oil separator completely refreshed. Okay, let's take the sump off. Drain the oil. So the oil in here was basically brand new. I've only done a few 100 miles on it. All nice and clean in there, no bits of plastic or metal or anything like that, so the sump should be fine. Take out all the 8mm bolts. Last one. There we go. And that's stuck on there because the ST170 uses a sealant gasket. So we just gently pry that off. So there it is, the sump is off, nice and clean inside there, as we expected. And if I just show you up here, what I wanted to check is there was nothing in the oil pickup there, so that's all nice and clean there. And the gasket that I did last time, I did actually want to check and make sure that it was done properly, and the right amount was on there, and it hadn't sort of squidged out or blocked anything, so I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do now is scrape off the old gasket and then basically do the same again, put it back on, torque all the bolts to spec, and that's one job done. Just going to use this to remove the old sealant. This was the trim removal tool from my Blackview, and basically I'm just going to use it because it's plastic and it won't damage the mating surfaces on the bottom of the engine there. Just going to run each sump bolt through here just to make sure that the threads are okay and that all traces of sealant have been removed. To get the sump back on, we need to use a 3mm bead of sealant and run it around the inside of these bolt holes here. We need to clean up this surface as well. Once we've got the bead of sealant on this, we need to make sure that it goes onto the bottom of the engine first time, because we don't want the sealant sort of squishing over or getting in the bolt hole. So we need to cut some studs here. So these are 6mm, and we cut them 20mm long, and then we basically put them into the bottom of the engine, and as we put the sump back on, these will go through here and give us a guide, and then we put in the rest of the bolts, take the studs out, and then put the final bolts in. And this is where they go. So we've got 9 in so far. So if I just put the last one on here, just screw them in there. And then what we do, if we've got the sealant on the sump, we can just raise the sump very gently over these studs. And then we know it's in exactly the right place, and we can raise it up to the block. And we know that the sealant first time has got into the right place. And then what I would do is put the other bolts in. Once they're done up, we take these out, put the other bolts back in, and then we know the sump's gone on there properly. However, I am going to be leaving that off for now because I need to do a few more jobs on this car before I put that back on. What we're going to do here is change the oil gasket in the upper sump. So we need to separate these two pieces here and change the gasket in there. Also, I want to change the water pump, which is there, and the oil pump as well. It's recommended with the oil pump that you take the engine out really before you do it, because it involves a lot of dismantling. However, because we are fairly well dismantled here, I am going to push ahead and do that. Also, we're going to be changing the cam belt as well. I'm going to clean this oil cooler up a bit, so this one doesn't get exposed to loads of heat, but the paint still has blistered a bit. So what I'm going to do is just clean it up a bit, put a coat of primer on it, and then we'll do a coat of satin black, and then probably a bit of lacquer as well. This label here I'm going to try and save because it is an original label, and we'll stick that back on afterwards. So with these pipes here, they have got a little bit of corrosion on the end there. I'm going to clean these up just so we get a nice seal when we put the water pipes back on. See if we can get the label off. Just put that somewhere safe and we'll stick this back on afterwards. I'm not going to do this bit inside here because that is right up against the block. What I'll do when I spray this, I'll just tape all this bit off so that all this side is covered. That's the sides cleaned up. Let's just clean up the water pipes. I'll just give this a quick spray with brake cleaner to get the dust off, then we'll tape it up and give it a coat of primer. Just tape over it, then cut around the edge with a knife. There's a little groove around there. This had 3 coats of satin black last night off camera. I'm going to give it a coat of high temperature lacquer now. Take the tape off. Now for the finishing touches, we'll get some glue, put this on the label and get this stuck back on. All done, we'll get this piece back on. Get the new cooler to block gasket on. This is the new one and this is the old one that I just took off there. Bit of oil on both sides. And then put it back into position. Screw the pipe back in. Then just tighten it firmly with the 27mm deep socket. Not too tight, not too loose. Put the oil filter back on. Hand tight only, don't go crazy. Okay, the cam belt, the lower crankcase gasket, the oil pump and the water pump. So these are all sort of tied in together. So what we're going to do is start to dismantle it and then do these jobs as we go. So if you're watching for one particular job, hopefully you'll be able to pick out what you need as we go through this. So first things first, let's take off the water pump. Undo the 3 bolts. Undo the 4 8mm bolts. And then remove the water pump. That's a bit bloody fiddly. It must have been talking to the alternator. There we go. And that's what you're left with there, just the casing where the pump goes. Here it is, the water pump. This one is basically brand new. It's done very, very few miles. It was put on when I got the car, when I had the cam belt done by somebody else. I don't know the quality of it. I don't know where he got it from. I've had no issues with it, but I am going to change it anyway for a nice known premium brand if I can find one. Same with the cam belt. It doesn't need doing, but because I wasn't the one that did it, I don't know what kit it was. I am going to change it anyway. It just makes sense to do it now. Undo the 4 bolts to loosen off the plastic cover. Just move the plastic cover back slightly so we can get the cylinder head cover off. Don't pull it back too much because you will crack it. Somebody's already done this to my car there. Take out the HT leads, all different lengths, so nice and easy when we come to put them back again. Disconnect the wire from the variable valve timing solenoid. Undo the bolt. And then remove the solenoid. Then normally we take off the crankcase ventilation hose, but at the moment it ain't connected to nothing, so that can stay where it is. And then we undo the 10 bolts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then lift the cover off. This cover will be going to the powder coaters. I'm going to have it blasted and painted the same colour and have this reconditioned. Obviously when I'm filming this cover will be off, but until this goes to the powder coaters at night or whenever I've finished, I'll have this back over the engine because I don't want to leave an engine open like that. I don't want to get anything in it. All these bolts need to come out too. We need to change the gaskets on them. Also this gasket below, this is the one that always causes the problem, so it will leak whatever you do. The best bet with these is to get a genuine Ford one, which is what I'm going to do, because you'll have constant problems with these and they leak into the spark plug holes and cause arcing, all sorts of hassle. It's always an issue, so the way we're going to go with this is a genuine Ford gasket. Remove the crankshaft pulley. Take out the cover bolts. The cover will fall off. Support the engine with the engine bar. Normally you do this from underneath, but with this car the sump is loose and it's too high to get the jack under it, so I just got one of these instead. Careful not to drop the chain on the camshafts. Hours of fun. Okay, E-sharp. Remove the engine mount. I'm just going to move the power steering fluid reservoir out the way. 18mm deep socket. Then take out the 15mm on the chassis rail. Last one. Take the mount off. Okay, there we go. Remove the two Torx mounting studs, E11. Remove the upper cover. Unbolt the auxiliary drive belt idler pulley. Unscrew the 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is a Torx bolt. We need to make sure that goes back in the same position. And the Torx. So these are different lengths, so make sure these go back in the right order and also make sure the Torx goes back in the right place. Make sure you drink your tea too before it goes cold. It's freezing today. Very nice. Now we've got to set the engine to TDC on number 1 cylinder. Remove the spark plugs. Then just put a bit of blue paper over these spark plug holes to stop anything from getting in there, you know, grit and bird shit, anything like that, all the stuff that cars like. Temporarily put the crankshaft pulley back on, just remember to line up the little keyway there. Rotate the crankshaft clockwise until the intake valves for number 1 cylinder have opened and just closed again. Open. And closed. The slots at the end of the camshaft now should be completely horizontal and level with the cylinder head surface. Take out the TDC blanking plug, 13mm. Back the crankshaft off very slightly anti-clockwise. Screw in the timing pin. Then very delicately roll the engine clockwise and you will feel a definite point of contact where the crankshaft touches on that timing pin. Yeah, there we go. Okay, the engine is now set to TDC, so we've got the number 1 piston at the top of the cylinder, we've got the crankshaft locking pin in down there, and we've got the bar in to lock the camshaft, so that's gone in the groove nicely there. Take the cam belt off, slacken the timing belt tensioner bolt. And turn the tensioner clockwise using an Allen key. Unscrew the bolt. Then slide the timing belt off the sprockets. And don't forget to remove your crankshaft pulley and obviously make sure it's still locked in position. There we go, that's the new old cam belt. So as we're going to be doing some further work to this car, we're going to be taking off the lower crankcase and oil pump. I'm going to put this mounting back on just so the engine is secure while we do that. Got the engine now secured on its mount and we're just going to take the bar off. Okay, we're going to take out the crankshaft sprocket and the thrust washer, and also if you notice this is why I'm going to have to do this again. I actually used the wrong primer. Don't tell anyone, but we're going to have to do the front and the back again, but that's a job for another day. I'll probably do that off camera actually, but here we go. So take out the crankshaft sprocket, pull that out. This is obviously still set to TDC, and then we take out the thrust washer. We need to remember which way this goes in. Remove the sump. We've only got a few bolts in here just while I was doing other things. Under the 2 oil pickup bolts with the T30 Torx. Going to take off the old gasket as well and replace this one when we put it back together. I just stick all the bits inside the sump there just to keep them safe and out of the way. Undo the bolts on the right hand drive shaft bracket. I have, for the benefit of the tape, already pre-loosened these, but they weren't too bad. I don't know whether you can just take this bit off actually, but I'm just going to take the whole bracket off. Why not? Let's make some work for myself. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, so that's the bracket loose. Should I take that off? What do you reckon? Okay, I'm going to undo these two, take that off, and then take this bracket out as far as I can actually. Okay, 13mm deep socket. Yeah, I should have left that bracket done up actually. Let's just pop one of these back in loosely and then take these out. Okay, that's better. There we go. So now we can get all the bolts in there. And I'm going to take off the cap bracket support as well because that looks like it's going to be in the way. Again, I have pre-loosened these. Got 13mm at the top. Taking off this bracket doesn't seem to be in the Haynes, and I think this is a sort of specific bracket to the ST170, so it will need to come off. Right, progressively unscrew the 10 bolts that secure the lower crankcase to the engine. Right, I'll make that 9. Where's number 10? Oh, it's in there, okay. There it is. Okay. Okay, number 9. Okay, what I'm going to do is put a couple of bolts back in here, either side, just to support it. Then we'll take out all these bolts on the side of the gearbox. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13 mil. And then I think this is the last one, just above the drive shaft. Let's see. Okay, let's take out our 2 bolts that we just put in and see what happens. Okay, you can sort of leave it from that side, but don't put anything in between the mating surfaces because you'll knacker the joint. There we go, that's the lower crankcase off. Remove the gasket. And then we've got to clean up the mating surfaces where the gasket goes. And especially where the sealant meets the oil pump there, there's a little bit of sealant that will just squidge out there, so we need to make sure that's completely clean there. There's a little bit actually on there, so that needs to be cleaned off. Some on here as well that needs to be gotten rid of too. Going to take off the oil pump, but first I'm going to undo this pulley here because that seems to be in the way of one of the bolts. Let's pop the bolts back in so I know where they are. Let's undo the oil pump. These are 8 mils. Take out the pump. And then remove the oil seal. The old one and the new one, got the new gasket there for the centre as well. Prime the new pump. Got a bit much there. Yeah, what I've got to try and do is get these 2 little bits here, there's one on each side, well 2 on each side. What I've got to try and do is line this internal piece up here so that these 2 bits here sit on that cutout of the crankshaft there. It's really difficult because it moves around, so it's just a case of keep trying it till it goes on. There we go. Whew. Alright, this is a no bullshit channel. That took me a bloody long time. That was probably the best part of 3/4 of an hour fiddling around with that. And I'll just take it off the tripod, I'll show you. Right, that's now setting where it needs to go, and there's a little piece there that just sits on the flat of the crankshaft on each side, and that's obviously when the crankshaft turns, that will turn the pump, and that was it moves around, and you have to kind of line it up properly. And what I did in the end, obviously I have to be extremely careful not to damage this because the oil seal will sit there, but I got this Allen key, and really carefully I just put it in there and just lifted up the internal rotor there, and it did actually pop on there. So that's what I'd probably do if I was doing that again. Yeah, you've got to be really careful not to cause any damage to that at all, because you don't want any oil leaks there. Okay, just do the bolts up loosely, and then we get the oil pump into position here. So it needs to be between 0.3 and 0.8 mil lower than the surface here, as that'll be the same on both sides, so we can get some feeler gauges and a straight edge and just make sure that's in the right position. Then we'll do the bolts up firmly. 0.3, perfect. Check this side. Perfecto. Tighten the bolts. Recheck the levels on both sides. And torque the bolts to 11 Newton meters. Fit a new crankshaft oil seal, so clean pair of gloves, tiny bit of oil, and just hand pressure only. There we go. Just going to refit our pulley that was in the way of the oil pump. Okay, here we go, lower crankcase all cleaned up. So this has had a good scrub with gunk, and basically done it both sides, done the outsides, rinsed it off, dried it, and then cleaned it properly with brake cleaning to make sure that every last drop of moisture is out of that. And then we've got the new gasket here ready to go on, and also I've cleaned up all of the bolts, made sure they're all okay. So now we're ready to put this back on the car. Got the new gasket on here, that's seated in there properly. These only go on one way, so yeah, nice and easy to fit there. Going to put two small lines of sealant between the block and the oil pump, so one there and one at the other side as well. And it doesn't actually say it in the book, but on the other side this car did have some sealant actually on this little thing here, so just where that joins onto there, I'm going to put a little bit down there and a small bit on the other side as well, just to be sure. Just raise this back into position and put the bolts back in. We'll just put them in loosely for now because we need to make sure this lines up with the block. Put the bolts back in. Let's do them loosely, make sure we've got the right sizes. Torque the bolts to 22 Newton meters before the sealant dries. Do the gearbox bolts back up. I'm not going to do this up too tight because I'm going to take out the gearbox soon when we do the clutch. Put the oil pickup strainer back on. We've got a new gasket on there too. And torque the bolts to 10 Newton meters. So get the sump back on. We've got 10 M6 20mm studs. We're going to put those into the bottom of the crankcase as a guide, put the sealant on, and then put the sump back on, do out the bolts, take out the studs, do out the rest of the bolts in stages as well. That's the position of them. They need to go exactly where these are so that the gasket squidges down properly. Put a 3mm bead of sealant around the inside edge of the bolt holes. Put the sump over the studs. And put the bolts in. Take the studs out. Now we're going to put the rest of the bolts back in there, finger tight. Now we've got to do the bolts up in 2 stages. So stage 1, you tighten them to 6 Newton meters. Stage 2, you tighten them down to 10 Newton meters. And this is the sequence in which we need to tighten them so the gasket spreads out suitably. All right, stage 1, 6 Newton meters. I'm going to hold the book up here so I get the right order. Okay, that's the first stage. And now stage 2, do them up to 10 Newton meters. Okay, all done. Put the bits back on the crankshaft. And clean up and reassemble the drive shaft bracket. The exhaust bracket here is not going to go back on yet because I'm going to clean that up and give it maybe a coat of paint. And the bearing there seems nice and smooth as well. Intermediate shaft bearing, 25 Newton meters. Going to get the brackets back on. Now the block is all painted, so this one sits up the top there, and the other one down here, the AC compressor bracket, sits below it. Compressor bracket, lower bolts, 25 Newton meters. And the upper nuts, 48 Newton meters. And the power steering bracket bolts, 48 Newton meters. So there we go, I hope you enjoyed. Sorry for the noise, the mics are broken, they don't like being dragged underneath the car and they seem to have conked out, so you might get a bit of wind noise on there, but for the next episode we're going to get some new ones. Also, we need to do the cam belt, so that's going to go back on. We need to get a special tensioner from Ford that's got like a stronger spring in, so the ST170 uses a slightly different one, so we're going to get one of those. And also we need to change the clutch, and we're going to rebuild all the cooling system, all the suspension, so all of that is coming up this summer. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you like these style of videos, feel free to like and subscribe. I don't know where this channel is going, but it's great to have you guys along from the ride. I'll see you for the next one. Hi and welcome to ST170 Restoration. In this episode we rebuild the entire top end of this once great noughties fast Ford. The car was originally bought back in 2019 to be an engine donor for a Transit Connect, but it was such a good drive on the way home I decided to keep it, and I've been restoring it back to standard ever since. In the previous episode, we took off the cam belt and removed the lower crankcase. We changed the gasket in that, and we also changed the oil pump. In this episode, we'll be taking the head off, looking at the head gasket, cleaning the pistons and removing the valves. We'll have it checked by machine shop and skimmed. After that, we'll be bringing it back, grinding the valves back in, checking it for leaks and preparing to put it back on the car. I also decided to do a major new section of work to this project. So let's get out there and start making a bit more progress, bringing this forgotten classic back to life. Okay, let's take the head off and change the head gasket. Go. Okay, unscrew the 7 manifold retaining bolts, and apparently there's a nut at either end. One of them holds on a wiring harness, so we need to undo that. Once you've taken out the nuts at either end, we need to also take out the studs as well. Okay, sadly with this, every single component is in the way, so I read through it, made the list. It's a pain in the arse, this is. I know, sadly, that alternator has to come off again, so we're going to take off the alternator. I'm going to take off this attachment down here. I'm also going to go underneath and take off the starter motor, because we are going to be doing the clutch, and I will be changing the starter motor as well, and that is blocking access, so I'm going to take basically everything off it, and then we're going to get the last 2 nuts off there, take the studs out, and then there are some bolts underneath. We're going to take those off as well, a few more of these bolts. So yeah, bit of a pain, but let's get the big bits off. Take the alternator back off. It's really not that bad. Take the alternator bracket off. So the problem is this one here, that goes into the head, so we could actually just take that off and then take the head off, but what I'm going to do is take the bracket off as well, because I just want more space when I'm messing around with the manifold. That's the 13mm there. That's accessible using a deep socket, and you can go in just above the oil filter, so you haven't got to take it off. 1 alternator bracket. Loosen the starter motor bolts. That's the starter motor off. Nice old Motorcraft one here. This was working absolutely fine, had no problems with it whatsoever, but I am going to have this one either changed or reconditioned just by way of preventative maintenance. That's all the rubbish out of the way. Now I can get on easily and take out all of these nuts and bolts. Also, I don't know whether you notice these cams, they are getting a very light coating of corrosion on there, so before I put everything back together, I'm going to have these polished, or polish them up myself. So that's the engine support bracket free. This is only held on by 1 bolt, so yeah, that's quite reassuring to know when it's supported on the engine bar and I'm underneath it, but we have to take this off because the end of it actually hooks over the, we've got the hole there, that hooks over that bolt there, and we have to take that nut off to get the manifold off. And then we could take out the remaining 10mm bolts there, so we've got 1 up there, and we have another one somewhere in there. I think there's another one in there, so we're just going to take out any that we see. We've got loads of access now, the starter motor's out the way to reach up there and undo those. Yep, so that was 2 more left, so there's 1 in there somewhere. Got to it from underneath, very fiddly, and then there's another one here you can get to from the side, and just as I loosen that, the manifold is starting to fall backwards now. Yeah, you can sort of get to it from the top. And before I undo that, I'm just going to take off this last vacuum hose here. It actually just broke off there, so it's a bit crispy. We're going to have to change that. I'm going to leave that bit on so I know that was there. But yeah, we're going to be after some more of these hoses. Yeah, when I put this back together, to put this bolt back in, I'm going to take off the injector rail, I think, just to get a bit more access, because this is right in the way, and that is going to be difficult to do that back up again. Cool. There we go, intake manifold removed. Loads of space down here now, look at that. Brilliant. I'm going to actually change the gear linkage cables as well, because it will never be easier to do this if I can find them, and have a clean up down here. May even paint the back of that just because I can. So and also I can sort a bit of that rust as well, that rust that was difficult to get to last time. As I said, we are going to be repainting the front of this car because the primer wasn't good enough. And here's the manifold, so I am going to completely strip this down, check it all, clean it, change any bits that need changing. We'll do that as a separate job. Take the cam sprockets off. I've got an E18 in the VVT pulley. Let's hold the camshaft. Loosen the camshaft bearing caps. We're going to do this progressively, half turn at a time, and we're going to follow the order in the Haynes manual there. That's for loosening them. This is an E10. Undo the cylinder head bolts. We're going to undo these a half turn at a time, and we're going to work in reverse of the tightening sequence. So that's the tightening sequence in the manual, and we're going to do that in reverse. So that came off okay. The engine is still set to TDC on #1 cylinder, and from the cylinders that I can see inside, it looks to be in absolutely perfect condition. There's no scoring, there's no lip, there's no nothing inside there. They're just lovely smooth cylinder walls with very little signs of wear at all. What I'm going to do, I want to take a look inside these two cylinders as well while it's all apart. I'm going to take out the TDC pin and I'm going to roll the engine back, obviously sort of remembering where it is, and then I'm going to have a look inside these two cylinders, then we'll roll it forwards again, put the pin back in and set it back to TDC. So roll it back a little bit just so the crank is off the pin. Take out the pin and then wind it backwards. So looking inside there, they look absolutely fine, considering this car's got 130,000 miles and it's 20 years old or 21 years old. They look really, really nice condition. There's no line, there's no lip, there's no nothing there, completely smooth. Absolute minimal signs of wear. A couple of very, very, very light lines in this one. Nothing at all to be worried about on this. Number one. Number four. Number two. And number three. Clean the block and the piston, so we need to be absolutely certain that nothing at all gets down the side of the piston there in between the piston and the cylinder wall, otherwise we'll score the cylinders. So when we clean this, we're going to put a little bit of grease all the way around the outside of the piston, and that will trap any particles that get down there. When I'm doing the centre, what I'll do is wipe off the worst of this. This is actually just fogging oil that I put on top of the piston, so that has been on there sitting there for a few months. So we'll wipe that off, and then we'll do the grease on the outside when we get close to the edge. I need to clean up all these water and oil channels here. Nothing needs to go in there, so when I do that, I'm going to run the vacuum cleaner and just make sure that nothing is going down there. You can block them up, but maybe I'll block them up, but I'm probably going to use the vacuum cleaner and just make sure that nothing goes in there. And then all of these little bits here we need to clean off. We mustn't make any marks or any scoring or anything on the top of this block, otherwise our head gasket won't seal properly. I'm going to clean up the back of the block as well while we're at it. I'm going to remove the knock sensor. I'll try and get another one of these if they're available, and basically clean it all down, and then we're going to paint it black like the front. I'll also be changing the low oil pressure sensor as well. So there we go, that's had a degrease, a bit of a clean up, and 2 coats of engine enamel. And what I've done there, I've taken off the oil cooler so we can get right around that, and also I've taken out the sensor for the low oil pressure as well. So just about to put the oil cooler back on. And then here we've got the knock sensors come off as well. I'm going to replace that if I can find one for a decent price. And we have the new oil pressure sensor here. So this is a critical part because we need to know, we can't have any failures on this if we lose our oil pressure. So I've gone for a genuine Ford one there, and that's the old one there. So let's get that back on. The oil cooler bolt is torqued to 58 Newton meters. Low oil pressure sensor, 27 Newton meters. That's the back of the block done. I'm going to use a bit of seafoam spray now just to clean the tops of the pistons. I think usually this goes into the intake of an engine when it's running, but we're going to use it on this one and see what happens. What I'll do as well, I'm going to put some grease just around the outside of the piston there, just to stop any particles from going down the side and scoring the cylinder. And also I've blocked up all the oil and water channels and bolt holes with draft excluder for doors and windows, so that just rolls up there, and it's quite springy so it stays in place. That's only been on there a couple of minutes and it has lifted a lot of stuff, so I'm going to give it another treatment and see if we can get the really encrusted carbon off that. Wind the piston back and then just wipe away the grease that's around the edge. That's piston 1 cleaned up. I'm not going to go too crazy with this and start sawing away at it to get all the staining out, but that is literally just caught in the grooves there, and all the carbon deposits are off that, and it is smooth. So I'm happy with that. That's as far as I'm going to take that. And now what I'm going to do is the same to the other 3 pistons. Come on, I'm not a monster. Okay, let's get the head rebuilt. So with this, it's important to note that I'm not an engine builder. So what I'm going to do is take all the bits I can off. I'm going to take out the springs, I'm going to take out the valve stem seals, take out the valves, all these nuts and bolts, hooks and things, and the sensor. And then we're going to take it to an engine builder or an engineering company. And what they're going to do is basically check that it doesn't need a skim, check all the tolerances, make sure all is well. Then when I get it back, I'm going to change all the bits on it. So we're probably going to get new springs. I'm going to do the valve stem seals. I'm also going to do the valves as well. So I'm going to grind these back in. When all that's done, I'm going to take it back to the engineering company and they're going to check it to make sure the work I've done is fine. And then we're going to put it back on the car. So when I'm taking it to bits now, I'm doing it like I'm looking at it from the front of the car. So I'm going to take all these bits out and then I'm going to put them up on the shelf in the same order that they've come out of the head, so that when we put it back together, all the parts are back in the same place and we know that everything's well. Right, let's make a start. This one here is stuck. I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to let the engineering company take that out. Okay, I think with my valve spring compressor, I need one that adjusts on the other side as well, because this neck isn't able to go in there and compress the spring. So when I put it over there, it is knocking on the top there, so I can't compress that. So let's go get another one. And that's the new one, so it has got a slightly longer reach there, so it can reach into the well of the engine and undo the bits we need to get undone. And that's the setup that I'm using there. So I've just put it on 2 bits of wood so we can actually reach in below and reach above it and get these undone. So with this, I have already taken some time to set it up there, so I've got the adjusters right there. And what it is you sort of open the handle up and then you clamp it back down. And you only want really a tiny bit of movement left on the handle to clamp it down and do the spring. If you leave too much, you can never get it shut. So we're going to open the handle and then clamp it onto the head like that. Let's get it on the valve. One more time for the close-up. Just make sure you can reach in there. That's it. Okay, one of the keepers is out. I'm just trying to sweep it onto my magnets. Yeah, we're going to have fun putting these back in. Okay, let's forget about the magnet. Let's try something else. Let's try some grease. Good. Good, good. Release the pressure. Take out the valve stem oil seal. There it is. Now we've got to do it all again 15 more times. And the last one. So I'm using an electrician's screwdriver for this, one of the really highly magnetised ones, and it gets these things out absolutely fine. So I've still got most of the valve stem seals in there. They just sort of come to pieces when you try and lift them out. I think there is a way you could put a nut over the top on a bar and take them out, but what we're going to do is take this head to a engine builders tomorrow and have them check it. So I'm just going to let them take that out just to save potentially damaging the head. Here's all the bits that came off. They look in remarkably good condition considering the mileage and the age of the car, and it's the same story with the underside as well here. So it's obviously a bit dirty, but the actual valve seats, they look fine to me. So what we're going to do now is have this professionally inspected by my local engine builder. So we're going to run it up there tomorrow and get that underway. And here it is back from the machine shop. So it's had a proper wash down, it's had the old valve stem seals taken out, and it's had a very light skim just to really make sure that surface is perfect and to remove any traces of old gasket. They also had a look at the valve seats as well. There's no pitting or any problems with those whatsoever. So when we come to grind the valves back in, they just need the absolute minimal amount of grinding, and that will be fine. The plan originally was to grind the valves back into the head myself using the valve grinding kit here. Before I do that though, the valves should be really clean, so we obviously want them clean before the rebuild, and also you have to take all of the carbon off the head there, because otherwise this rubber sucker there won't properly attach to the valve and you can't grind them in. What I'm going to do though, after talking to the guys in the machine shop today, is take all of my valves uncleaned. I'm going to put them back into the head in their proper positions. Then what they'll do, they'll take each one out, clean it up properly, they'll put it back into the head, and then they'll grind it in. And then what they'll do after they've done that is apply a vacuum across there, and then they can check that nothing's leaking. So what we're going to do now is put each valve back into its proper place, and then we'll take it back to the machine shop. Okay, back to the machine shop. Looking much better. So I've had all of these valves taken out and cleaned up, and I've also had them very lightly ground back in there. So now we can see that grey band around the outside of the valve, and the same with the valve seat. It's been vacuum tested, so we know we haven't got any leaks in that, and we know it's in perfect condition to put it back on the car. What I'm going to do now though is take it outside in the garden and give it a wash with soapy water. I need to do that because when the valves are ground in, there's little sort of sparkles of metal you can see, and also the same with the skim as well, so we need to make sure that it's properly washed. After that, we're going to start to rebuild it. So that's all the little bits that we need to get off there. We don't want that getting in the oil. Okay, that's all cleaned up, ready for the rebuild. It's the same with all these bits up here. These have had a wash in white spirit, so now they're all clean and dry and ready to be reassembled. We're going to start with the valve stem seals. So I did go up to Ford today and I inquired about the price of a set of these from the Ford dealership, and they wanted nearly 90 quid for them. And as far as I'm concerned, that is just point blank taking the piss. You're almost embarrassed to go in there and buy them. So we're not going to do that. And I have noticed with Ford, they are a company that does take the piss, and they really don't look after anybody running older stuff or their heritage stuff. They just don't want to know. They offer no assistance whatsoever. And it's a real shame because people really do like these cars and they want to keep them going, but that's just the way it is. So we've gone for the Rhines ones. We're going to get those on and start to rebuild this. One, two, do that again 15 more times. That's the head ready to go back on the car, but first we're going to do a tiny bit more work to this car before we put that back on. So what I'm doing, when I was at the machine shop, I've been talking to the guy down there who's been doing it for sort of 40 years or whatever, and he's basically saying that what we're doing to this car is effectively we're putting the power back to standard power. So the engine should be running very well, and it's going to be creating basically hopefully what it did from the factory. What can happen sometimes when you suddenly improve the health of an engine, apparently you can cause problems with your bearings. And what you sort of see sometimes is people do maybe a light tune, or they have the car refurbished and then they'll maybe take it on track or something and they'll suddenly get bearing failure without any warning. And apparently that's caused by basically giving a car back its original power and basically using old bearings. So what we have here, we should have an ST170 that is, you know, very, very good health, you know, making its proper horsepower, and we've got our bearings on 130,000 miles, so probably it would be okay, but we're just thinking that basically the advice that I got was to change the bearing. So what I am going to do, before I put the head back on, I'm going to change the rod bearings and the main bearings just to be on the safe side. And then what I thought, because that is fairly well dismantled, what I'm going to do, as I found a machine shop that is in in the next town from me that I didn't actually know was there, I'm going to hone the block. So what I've got to do is effectively undo a lot of the work that I did in the last episode. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail filming that. I'm going to basically sort of cut to the point where I am taking it out, and then we're going to bring the block in here, put it on the table, and we're going to change the bearings, take it all to pieces, take the block out, get it honed, and move on from there. So basically with the cylinders, I'm not an engine builder, and had a look at my cylinders. To me, they look fine. They're not scored. There's no signs of damage. There's even a little bit of honing marks still on them. So, you know, to all intents and purposes, I could put that back together. They'd be fine for another 100,000 miles. So if you're running an ST170 and it's had regular oil changes and it's on 130, 140,000 miles, it's probably absolutely fine. You just carry on running it, no problem at all. I'm only going to do this because it's sort of so far taken apart. So basically when it's honed, we sort of put the cross hatching back on the cylinder, and apparently, as I'm no expert in this, but apparently it helps the oil flow to the piston rings and sort of helps the seal and basically takes off the glaze, so the engine basically is in better health and, you know, is just sort of running better basically, so it puts it back to how it should be. We aren't going to rebore it because that's a whole different thing, but we are, as I said, going to hone it, and then we're going to change the piston rings as well, change everything we can, obviously use sort of standard size 4 piston rings in there and take it from there. So what we're going to do now is go over to the car and take out the block, take out the gearbox and get on with some work. What could go wrong? Actually, let's just put the gearbox nut back on just so we can check it's dropping properly on the jack. Yeah, it's coming down nice and level. Woohoo, right, we're committed now guys, let's do this. Whoa. It's all good, it's all good. Let's get the jack down. Yeah, it's on the wooden pallet, so we're all good. Okay, let's take the gearbox off. I know the clutch in here is toast, so it's going to be interesting to see just how bad it is. Well, better just take this off. Put the clip back in. Oh, okay. I've left one bolt in. And there it is, one 6-speed get rag gearbox removed from the car, covered in clutch dust. So we're going to have a proper good look at that, clean it all up. We're even going to clean the casing, I reckon, get it looking really nice. And then the clutch in here, we can't really see much of that, but I know that is absolutely Ronnie, that clutch. That's not going to, you know, that needs to come out, so we're going to take all of that apart and have a look at it. What I'm going to do now that it's into nice little manageable pieces, I'm going to take this into the shed and we're going to be dismantling this. So we're going to be sort of separating the block again, and that's going to go away, have a lot of work done. We're basically going to do everything this car needs. Woo, there we go. That was a bit unexpected, wasn't it? What's this guy doing? Crazy with his ST170. What I'm going to do is basically carry on with this project, just going to push forward and get it done to the best of my ability, the nicest restoration I can possibly do. We are going to be taking out the block in the next episode. It's going to have its crank checked. We're going to change all the bearings. We're going to sort it all out, have it honed. Probably a million other things I've forgotten about at the moment, but it's all going to be done. If you want to follow along on this project, bear in mind there is a little bit of a gap in between videos. It's on ST170_restoration. That's the Instagram channel. And if you like what I'm doing here, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's good to see you guys are there. And if you get watching them, guys, I'll keep making them because I really do enjoy doing these. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you guys soon. So here it is, the black leather interior for the ST170, currently clogging up my lounge nicely. So we do need to get these in the car. So what we got here is these nice leather seats. These are heated Recaro seats. I found these in really, really nice condition. These are the front ones. And then we also have the black leather rear seats and also all of the door cards as well. So I need to get these out of the lounge to prevent them from being bumped around over the winter. So what we're going to do now is go over to the car and take out the blue interior. Okay, so this is a pain because we can't use this door because we're too close to the house, so we're going to have to lift it over and then out. Fun times! And here it is, the fitted Recaro interior for the ST170. So yeah, really, really happy with that. Looks really good. Fits the car really well. It was the interior this car was meant to have. When I went to Ford, it was listed as having this black leather interior. So there we go, nicely fitted in the back here. I haven't put the cards in yet because we're going to be doing the welding and I don't want to be taking those on and off. Same with the front as well. I have got the cards for that, but I'm not going to do them yet. We're going to do them when the car is up and running because we still need to sort a few minor water leaks in here that is coming in around the door seals. So I need to get new door seals, and also we need the sort of cowling around the windscreen to stop the leaks from coming in here. It's nothing major, but it's not good enough yet to put the carpet back in. Also, in the up and coming episodes, I'll probably mention we're going to be doing the gear selector cables, all the stuff for the clutch and lots of other bits and bobs down there, so we don't want to be putting the carpet back in yet. But yeah, really happy with that, and I suppose we should sit in it, shouldn't we? Yeah, as expected, really nice driving position, very good quality seats. I feel really nice, lots of support, and I'm 6'2", and these are perfect fit for me. Really nice, good head restraint there, and yeah, really nice leather. Feels quality, and you obviously got the extra side bolster there, so I would imagine with a Spirited drive these would hold you in very well. So I have had Recaros before in a different car that I used to have, and I did find them very good quality, and yeah, I got on really well with them. So that's it for now, guys. More coming soon. Oh, there we go, keys to the new rental garage. So I'm so happy to get this. It's only a little garage, but basically I've been on the list for over 2 years, since before I started the ST170, and I need to store a lot of these car parts, and I'm going to need to store the ST170 when it's finished as well. So this garage is half an hour away from my house, so it isn't ideal, but apparently it's, you know, decent quality, and we're going to basically go down there, have a look at it now and see, you know, hopefully it's, you know, it's been raining all day, so hopefully it's not one of those garages that's filled with water. Either way, I've signed the contract, so yeah, little rental garage. Let's go and have a look and see what it's like. Okay, so I've got some shelving in there. I've got the light and also one Belgian Shepherd, so let's see if we can get down there before it gets dark. Right, let's see what we got. Okay, key works. That's a good start. Okay, lovely. So it's not full of rubbish, and yeah, someone's had looks like an ST170 in here before, and yeah, the roof seems okay. So, whew, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's dry, so it has been raining for you know, days where it's had really good rain, so it does look like it's actually not leaking. Small hole there, but I can't really see any signs of leakage, so yeah, good, really happy with this. Yeah, this might as well be a 3-car garage with a ramp as far as I'm concerned. I've been waiting a long time for one of these, so yeah, let's get the shelves up. Okay, there we go, got the shelf set up, so I can store all of the little bits here, like the, you know, the headlights and you know, bits of trim. I can get them off the ground and store them carefully there. So obviously I'm not going to leave anything that is expensive and it's only really, you know, valuable to me, or if you have an ST170. So no power tools, no nothing like that. It's just literally to get all the bits out of the way of the new workshop build at home. So there will be a video on that coming up shortly when I finish this. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is, as it's getting dark, yeah, sort of race down here to have a look at this. Yeah, it's getting dark, so we'll come back tomorrow. We're going to start bringing some of the stuff in and clear my house. So I'm just digging out all the bits of car that have been squirreled away around the house. So this is the carpet, all covered in filth and dog hair, and then we've got all the other bits here as well. I've got the old door cards here that I'm going to hang on to because there's always a clip or something you need. And then over here we've got the ones that suit the black leather Recaro interior. So these are the ones with the sort of black kind of leather insert there. So I'm going to clean these up before we put these in the garage. The same with the headlights. I've got my old headlights down here covered in a thick layer of filth and dust. You know, they've sort of been stored for a while, and yeah, it really does collect up on them. So in these I've got the night breaker headlights and also proper ballast as well. So I'm going to be putting the lights and the ballast into these headlights, which I picked up. These have been reconditioned, look really nice, will look really good on the car. And then we have all of the subframe, anti-roll bar, the radiator support there. So this is an original subframe for the car, front subframe, and it's been blasted and yeah, fully powder coated. They did a really nice job on it, really nice condition. So yeah, I want to keep that nice. I'm going to give that a proper wipe down, get all this dust and filth off it, and then this can all go to be stored in the garage. So let's get this lot cleaned up. There we go, all cleaned up. Job done, so we've got all the bits in here safely stored out of the way. Got the door cards on the top here. What I'm going to do is get a big piece of polythene and put it over all of this lot, because sometimes these garages, they can sweat a little bit in the winter and the water can bead up on the ceiling, and obviously I don't want any water getting on these because it would ruin them. And then under here we've got all the headlights, so we've got the old ones here, but they have new bulbs and ballasts on, so I'll be taking those off and putting those onto the new headlights with the nice clear lenses. And then next door we got the fully reconditioned front subframe, the anti-roll bar, and that little cover that goes over the electric terminals under the passenger wheel arch. Got the little bits of the headlights. These are quite hard to find, so yeah, looking for some of these, but I'll just keep these as a bit of a template. Something else for the carpet, and then the gear cover there. So I do have the one with the heated switches in, but I think I left those in the back of the ST170, so I'll go and have a look. And then we've got the old interior door cards. So these are for the, well, one's for the front, one's for the back. These are, you know, not needed at the moment because I've got the other ones, but I'm actually saving these because there may be a clip or something I need on. So that's why these are on the floor. And then next to it, we have the wing. So these are rotted. I'm keeping them just in case, you know, something's on them. I certainly need the indicator thing out there, but you know, you might need to take it, I don't know, get a paint match or something, just might make life a bit easier. But ultimately, these will be for the skip. Okay, there we go. That's all the big bits safely stored out of the way, and we can now get on with the workshop build. So video on that coming out soon. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.